All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited to have you. Maybe we can start off by having you maybe introduce yourself and maybe tell us also where you live.
Okay, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Indra. My middle name is MA, which I tend to use because there's a bookstore. My last name is Books, and there is a bookstore in Australia called Indra Books. So I started using either my middle initial or my middle name. But Indra is just fine. And I currently live in Barcelona province in Spain on the coast. So I get to walk out on my balcony and look at the sea every day, which is pretty awesome after living in Washington, D.C. for 20 years.
Yeah, let's hear a little bit more maybe about your background and how you ended up in Spain.
So like I just mentioned, I lived in Washington, D.C. for 20 years, did what everybody in D.C. does, worked for the government in IT. It's like you go on like a date and everybody you meet is either in IT or the government or both. That's like the big joke, but it's not really a joke and not very funny. So after 20 years of doing both being a government employee and a consultant, I had some major health challenges and the doctor said, you need to make life changes. And I did what I always do. I went home and thought about it and I made some changes. So I went back to him and I said, well, I've got a plan. And he's like, all right, let's hear it. I said, I'm moving to Spain. And he said, life changes, not like a new life. And I said, no, I thought I'd just have a whole new life. I'm going to move to Spain. So I did. This was in May. We put a very aggressive medical plan together. In June, I confirmed that I was going to be able to do it. And I moved in August. So actually, I just celebrated my 2nd anniversary living in Spain, and I'm super excited about it. I love it here.
Amazing. What did you do to celebrate?
I had a bottle of cava from
Oh.
the winery where I had my 50th birthday party last year. They sent me a bottle of their new rosé cava. It was quite nice.
I love it. I love it. And I think, one of the things that we've spoken about a lot is sort of, building a life or building out a business that really aligns with our values and aligns with how we want to spend our time. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your business and sort of who you serve. I think it's, something that's sort of similar between the two of us as well.
Well, when I left DC, I kept my consulting job in DC. Because I wasn't really prepared to totally jump off the cliff without a parachute. I wanted to make sure that I had a financial safety net. And the longer that I was here and really embracing the lifestyle and the culture, the harder it became to reconcile working for a consulting company that didn't align with my values. And I got to the point where I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. You made all of these changes and you're still holding on to that one traditional thing that's really holding you back. And so I jumped off the cliff without the parachute and started my own consulting practice here called Agility for All. And I did it because I see so many consultancies where they're just cranking out, agile frameworks. They're selling Scrum, they're selling Kanban, they're selling less or lean or any other buzzwords you can think of, and they're not selling results. And I wanted to take people back to basics and really focus on the word agile with the lowercase a and the dictionary definition, which is to be flexible, able to change rapidly, adaptable. And that's what I wanted to teach people, those core values of being able to kind of ebb and flow where you need to go. And I think 2020 has taught us how critical that mindset is, that you can't rely and jump back on your framework. You can rely on being agile and being adaptable and flexible and able to change. And that's what I wanted to teach people. And I didn't know when I started the business that 2020 was going to be what 2020 has been. But that has really helped me with coaching people and getting rid of the buzzwords and really focusing on the fundamentals and the basics, and helping people create environments that they want to live in when they're at work. We spend so much time at work. We need to have environments that we want to live in.
Yeah, no, I really love that. And I love, I think you're also the first person that's actually helped me really understand what agile is about, and how to really apply it. And the fact that you can apply it in so many different areas of your life. If you were talking to a leader who was super skeptical about this concept of agile, what is like the first thing you would tell them?
The thing that I always say, in fact, my teams back in DC would get so tired of me saying, is what is the problem you're trying to solve? Let's not worry about words. Let's not worry about agile or what that means or who that makes us. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And then let's work towards a solution. So many times we put the solution first. We saw this product advertised. We went to a conference and somebody spoke about something. We read an article. All the people in our community group are saying the same thing, and we just jump onto it because other people are doing it. And we never think about what is the true problem that we're trying to solve. And then figuring out what the solution is. Not trying to put the solution in first and then see if it solves the problem.
Sure, yeah. No, I think that's a really great approach, and I think it's something that we all sometimes forget to do. Right? We just jump to conclusions. I know I'm really good at that, and that's why I actually really enjoy coaching, because it really forces you to take a step back and think a little bit more about what else is possible and brainstorm opportunities. What other ways do people have to sort of engage with you or get access to some of your amazing knowledge around agile?
So I started out with kind of a more traditional approach with coaching, consulting, and master classes. And in April, one of my students said, I learned so much from you, but I have to be honest about something. My brain got totally full at 2 hours. And I feel like I need to take your class again to figure out what I missed in the last 2 hours. And that really hit me, because I was like, wait, am I not delivering things the way that people really need it? And I think so often we're taught, oh, you can have 1 day to go take a class, or maybe 2 days to go, and we have to pack so much in. And apparently I have a reputation for packing 3 times as much in as everybody else and making people's brains hurt. So I started thinking, and then as the pandemic started moving forward, I thought, we all need to change, including me, and people need things in smaller chunks. And so I now do those master classes that were full days over 12 weeks. So it's an hour and a half to 2 hours each week. And some weeks are instruction and practice, and some weeks are group coaching. But that's one of the things I'm really proud of that I've launched this fall, is this new way of learning, because I think it really responds to how people need to receive information right now. They need time to digest and embrace what they're learning. So I changed my method from that traditional, I will come in and consult, I will come in and coach, to this more distributed learning method of, we're going to still do the consulting, we're still going to do the learning, we're still going to do the coaching, but we're going to do it in a different way and give everybody a chance to really internalize what they're learning and put it into practice, and then come back and ask questions when it doesn't quite go the way you thought, or you want to try something else. So I think that's my biggest change this year. I still will do consulting if a company wants me to come in and consult. Obviously, I will still do coaching, one-on-one coaching, but I think this new way with the group coaching is hopefully a better model for people.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's something I've had to learn as well, that group coaching can be a very effective way to build that psychological safety as well, because you recognize that you're not the only one who's struggling with something, and you can learn from other people. So that's definitely one of the things that I've come to learn. And, sort of talking a little bit more about consulting, right before we started sort of recording this, you mentioned this word that I want to hear more about: ethical consulting. Tell me more. I know it's a bit of a segue, but tell me more. I'm really curious.
Well, I've never been one that fits in a box. In fact, I said to somebody when I was speaking at a conference one time, what box? Like, people say, oh, you have to think outside the box. I'm like, what box? Was there a box? Was I supposed to be in a box? Oops. So I think this whole concept of ethical consulting is kind of my reaction to what I saw for over 20 years in Washington, D.C., was this practice of going into an organization with your flash and bang PowerPoint, promising to deliver the world in a short amount of time with these amazing results, And the reality was that never happened. And so when I started Agility for All, I was like, first of all, I will never take that approach because I've never liked it, but I won't even sign a long-term agreement. So when I work, if an organization wants to work with me and I want to work with them, that's a big part of it. Do we both want to work with each other? Let's do a discovery period, 3 to 6 weeks. And let's remember that question I said earlier, what is the problem we are trying to solve? Let's dig into that and make sure we all agree this is the problem we're trying to solve, and that we've assessed the cultural readiness of the organization to solve that problem, and then what that looks like. And then if we all agree we're on the same page and we want to work together, then we can sign a longer term agreement for, wait for it, 3 months.
That's it.
That's it, 3 months.
Okay.
And we will go through the first phase of this change and work together, and I will be there as champion and cheerleader and coach and help support the change, but I'm not going to be the one directing. You know, that doesn't work. If I'm going to tell you what to do, then you aren't going to be able to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. So help people move through the changes, help move through the evolution, and then I'm going to go away. I'll still be available for coaching hours if they need them, but I am not going to be there on the day-to-day overseeing, being this person over top. And then I'll come back and we'll see, how did we do? We'll do a retrospective. What worked? What didn't work? How are we feeling about this? How do we want to keep going? And then we'll do 3 more months of changing and evolving. But these long-term agreements don't build sustainable change, because they're relying on this person or this group to just keep telling them what to do. So I tell people all the time, it's ethical consulting. If you're selling somebody this flashbang PowerPoint presentation of how you're going to save their world, just stop. Just stop talking, because you haven't taken the time to even identify their problems, much less them taking the time to do it. And I think if we all did more of that, and I know that that's not a popular philosophy because it's not the one that brings in the big money. You know, there's big money behind multi-year flashbang proposals. I know that. I've been in this world for a very long time. That's just not the world that I want to be in.
No, I really like that. You know, I'm actually, it's given me sort of an opportunity to even think about what I do. I mean, I'm trying to shift a little bit more from the B2B to more B2C anyway, but that's a really interesting approach. And I like the way you really structured it with a definite sort of beginning and end, which sometimes these more B2B projects don't really have, right? Things just sort of drop off. So I like that idea of having like a 3-month cycle and being very intentional about using that time, and then sort of having you for those top up opportunities that are more of coaching opportunities where you're not really directing. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about how you learn to ride a bicycle.
Okay.
How do you learn to ride a bicycle?
You kind of get on, you fall off a little bit, you ride along for a little bit, you know, someone helps you, maybe even guides you for a bit, and then they let go.
Mom or dad might be behind holding on to the back of the seat while you're riding. You may have started with training wheels. There's a progression. Yeah. You know, you start with the smaller bike and it has the little wheels on it. And then you get the bigger bike and maybe it still has the wheels on it, but it's a bigger bike. It's more to handle. And then you take the training wheels off and somebody might be holding the seat behind you. But eventually you're just coasting down the sidewalk. And the goal is that you didn't notice that mom or dad behind you let go. You know, that's kind of the approach that I do with consulting is let's step through it. And I don't want you to notice that I let go.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, really guiding them to evolve, right? And to shift so they themselves can support themselves. Yeah, I really love that. I'm curious though, how do you make sure you find the right client? I think that's something that's constantly on my mind. I think a lot of people in this space as well. How do you make sure you find the right client so that that 3-month period you can really do a good job with them?
So again, not the popular answer because
this is not popular. We're not popular.
I don't know how to do the popular answer, but I have this same conversation with potential customers.
Oh, okay.
Because if we can't be genuine and authentic, if they can't be their authentic selves with me, and likewise, I can't do the same with them, then it's not a good partnership. So I think that genuine authenticity when you're having these conversations, there is no question when I have a meeting with you and we end the meeting who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am the same person that I am on this conversation with you, that I am on the conversation with a prospective customer, that I am in group coaching. You know, I'm this person. I've worked really hard to be able to show up as myself. And if I can't do that, then how would you, as the customer, respect me enough to teach you how to do it
Mm-hmm.
and to mentor you? So I have to be able to always show up as my authentic self, which means sometimes I'm not a good fit. You know, I got rid of thousands of dollars of suits. I have no interest in wearing them ever again. That doesn't mean I don't look professional when I go somewhere, but that's not me. That corporate image with the PowerPoint, that's not me. So I try to be as genuine as possible with people when we first meet so they know that's what they're getting.
Yeah, fair. And so you mentioned this idea of being authentic. You know, what sort of things have you done to ensure that you feel comfortable showing up as yourself, both in your personal life and professionally as well?
I think being a woman in the 90s in tech, I had to learn to hold my tongue and not say what I was thinking and not be myself, because it was hard enough just fitting in with the boys and being the only woman. I was often the only woman in the room. And so I learned to hide my authentic self, and that came at a great cost. And I woke up one day and I didn't like who I was showing up as. I didn't like how people saw me. I didn't like who I had to be to get through those days to survive. And that's what it was. I was surviving. And I went home one day and wrote my resignation notice and said, I can't do this again. I've done this for so many years. Either I need to find a place where I can be me, or I need to do my own thing, but I just can't be what I've become because it was making me ill. Like, it was having all kinds of horrible effects on me. And I think if other people start looking at that as well, like if people in the corporate, especially in leadership positions, if they've had to suppress who they are to fit in, it takes a terrible toll on them after a while, and it shows up in all kinds of not attractive ways. Mm-hmm. And from that point forward, I mean, that doesn't mean I just open my mouth and blurt things out, which I'm capable of doing. I do think about what I say, but I've really made an effort to show up as myself so that I can empower other people to show up as themselves. Because how hypocritical to stand in front of a group of people and talk about psychological safety and open communication and collaboration and not be myself. Like, how do I teach other people to do that? So I've just learned that the price that you pay for not being yourself is too high a price.
Oh yeah, and what you've just said, I think, is something that really resonates with me as well. And I think it's kind of tough also because sometimes I think those of us who work in this space, you know, people sometimes forget that we're also human as well, right? So this, you know, how to put it, like, we try to live our lives as aligned as possible, and sometimes it's also this sort of thing that we're aspiring to do. But that we also can, you know, make mistakes as well. We are human. We also are on this journey alongside them. But that's something I think about a lot as well. Like, how can I make sure that I continue to be authentic, genuine, and bring myself into what I do as much as I can. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to work for myself as well. What is maybe one step you would tell someone, a leader who's starting to feel this way? What's the first thing that they should do?
One of the things that I tell people is, the next time someone asks you a question and you don't know the answer, say, I don't know, but let's figure this out together. And watch the face of the other person as they realize you're human too. That is a powerful step for people to take, because leaders are conditioned, as we have been, that you always have to have the answer, you always have to be on, you always have to be right, you always have to be prepared, you always have to be successful. There's an always in front of every statement. And the reality is none of us can be that. So if you want to start making changes, the next time you don't know something, genuinely just say, you don't know. But don't end it there, because that just makes it look like you're an idiot. I don't know, shrug. I really don't know. Let's work on a solution together, or let's find an answer together. And that opens up doors for you to start changing who you are as a leader, and for people to start seeing you differently.
Yeah, no, I like that. And it's really interesting that you say that, because when I first had my first, real job and real leadership position, I would say, I don't know. I didn't know, like at that point, like I didn't have many role models or anyone or anyone really to emulate, leadership after. So I very much was just like, yeah, I don't know, but let's figure it out. And it's something that I hear a lot of leaders say, and it is a form of imposter syndrome to feel like you should know everything, right? That you need to be an expert. So I think that's a really great first step, and a really great first thing that you can do to feel a little bit more authentic, and to feel less of an imposter, recognizing you aren't a human, and being vulnerable with somebody else, so they can sort of recognize that as well, and probably reciprocate and be like, yeah, me neither. I don't either. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's next for you? What's happening in your business that you're excited about next?
I am excited about these new 12-week journeys. We have one kicking off on the 21st called Power Up Your Team Collaboration, which came about, again, back to April and that whole conversation, but it also came back because I was hearing people saying, oh, when we had to go home, our teams fell apart. I would challenge, your teams weren't that solid before you went home. So this is an opportunity for people to get together and really look at what true collaboration looks like, and how we change the face of how teams show up, whether it be in person, virtually, hybrid. If we create a really strong team dynamic, it doesn't matter where you show up, you can show up.
Yeah.
So that's the big one. And I ended up creating a mini program for people, because everybody kept saying to me, how did you turn this around so fast? How did you create these new 12-week programs so fast? Oh my gosh, I'd still be working on my ideas. And so I built a mini course to help people do the same thing. If you want to do online coaching or teaching and you've never done it before, how do you quickly get a program put together? And how do you teach that program in a way that is different than how you would do it if you were standing in front of a room in a group? So that's a new one. That just came out of my head one day. And then the big thing I'm excited about is what you and I have coming up.
Yeah.
And that's in the new year, working together on a leadership program, also with using the 12-week model. So, I love coaching and consulting, but I really love doing these programs and watching people grow, and, watching those moments when they just turn the corner and realize there's something different around that other corner.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that one too. And I love this idea of really going on a journey with the client. That's one of the questions I think I even used to ask in my intake sessions, like, are you willing to go on a journey? Like this, it is a process. Any sort of behavior change, any sort of shift or transformation, you have to be willing to put a little bit of the work in, and do that over a period of time.
Yeah, exactly. You can't learn anything in one day. You can learn lots of ideas, but you can't really internalize it and put it into play. And it took me a minute to realize that just because that's what everybody else was doing did not mean that's how I had to show up and deliver programs.
Yeah, no, I love it. So just continuing to be yourself. Yeah. And continuing to be genuine moving forward. All right. Well, Thank you so much for your time. As always, it's always awesome to catch up with you. And I really appreciate that you've taken the time and that you had the time to do this.
All right. Thank you so much. And just everybody remember, there was no box. You did not have to get in it.
I love it. Thanks so much. Bye.
All right. Bye.